Welcome to This Week in Vexly. First we will start off by review last week's ideas. First we liked AMD for a long, and from Monday's open we saw AMD up around 2%. Next we liked coin for a long. After Monday's open coin was up 7% on Tuesday morning. Next we liked biotech as a short last week, and like LLY and MELI as a short, in which both were down 2 to 3% at the lows of the week. Our final idea from last week was a long on SCHW, which from Monday's open was up almost 14% this week. Looking back at last week, we can see the vol crush pattern by looking at our market view tool that shows on the daily we stayed in a 0.5% closing range, and for the weekly return, we were relatively flat. In previous weeks we've also mentioned positioning on tech to have been fairly positive, but over the last week we started to see a drawdown, but not in any concerning way. This leads us to believe this was more of profit-taking than fear-selling. Now let's talk liquidity. The Fed has continued to drain liquidity, which is notable by the decline in total assets held in the form of treasuries. However, central bank swaps have counteracted some of this effect. However, recently swaps have continued to decline, and as a result the liquidity drain effect should begin to increase. Looking at sector positioning across the board going into this week, we have begun to see a decline across several sectors, which are heavily weighted in the S&P. Now let's get into this week's ideas. We like Roblox as a short. Looking at Pluto, we can see Roblox is a heavy short, and we have a large negative position at 35 on our gamma profile along with poor seasonality for this week. Next we like Chevron as a long going into this week. Pluto signaled a long last week, and we are seeing some big positioning at 175 and 180 for this week along with seasonality going into some of its strongest time of the year in the next couple of weeks. Next we like PDD as a long due to the major positioning at 85 along with price sitting below the negative peak at 70, which should pull price higher like how we saw price bounce on the VX levels at 68. And we have positive seasonality going into this week. We also want to mention Pluto that is close to a long. Next we like Netflix as a short, and based on the market maker model we can see peak gamma is at 330, which is where Netflix got rejected last week. Next we like JNPR as a long, which has signaled long on Pluto, and looking at our gamma profile shows a big position set for 34 and 35 along with bullish seasonality. For our final idea, we like Alibaba as a long, which is signaled long on our Pluto model along with some major gamma positioning sitting at 100 and 105 and 110 along with a tick up in seasonality. To recap going into this week, we like China tech along with energy as a long and see some weakness for the big tech, and should note we have a lot of big names with earnings this week. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.